Ramset Cobra. This tool is older than dirt. It's probably 29 years old, I'd say, or very close to it. It was bought in the first year that we had the business, which is coming up on 29 years here in about 2 weeks. Well, actually in about a week. But, this is it. It's a powder actuated fastening tool. Uses these strip loads that are inserted in the bottom like so. And then to advance it, you just simply rack the action and it will move this up one click at a time, and each one of these is a load. This 27 caliber. The Cobra was modeled on the DX350, which is a Hilti product. Actually have a little bit of Hilti oil. Well, at least the oil can. I think the oil's long gone. But it's a pretty robust thing, and I'm sure you can hear that. You know, they talked about the M16 being a really tight tolerances, and you had to clean it, you know, so that it stayed functional, and that the AKs, especially the Chinese-made AKs, they just rattled. But you could pick them up out of the mud and chamber around, and they'd fire because their tolerances were pretty sloppy. And I'm going to say this is Chinese-made. I mean, I don't know that for certain, but let's just say that it's got AK-esque qualities, and that's putting it mildly. Well, one of the things that it has, you can see there, well, I don't know if it's too dark here. Let's see if that helps. A little bit more light. But that's the firing pin, or not the firing pin, but the shaft that actually drives the nails, whether they're these long ones like this or shorter ones. Generally speaking, when we use these things, we use it fastened down metal studs, you know, the track, 3 5/8 bottom runners. And in concrete, we'd shoot a 1/2-inch nail, and in steel we would shoot in concrete we shot a 3/4-inch nail, and in steel we shot a 1/2-inch nail. And these are a couple, look like concrete pins, a little bit longer. But we literally, you know, it didn't shoot the nail into the substrate. It hammered it in with this shaft. And this shaft, it shouldn't be so floppy like that, because actually when you cock it, that's supposed to retract the shaft back to where it's supposed to be, and then when you press down, it shouldn't fall out the bottom like it does. What ends up happening then is you create a gap between your load and where the load is pressed up against the back of the drive shaft, and it just goes pop. I mean, it still bangs, but it doesn't drive the nail in. So, quite a few years ago, after wearing this thing out, I went ahead and ordered another shaft, because the rings wore out, you know, and you can only grind down the end of your shaft so much before you go out of your tolerances, and essentially don't have enough shaft to do the job. This is a keeper pin. This is a way that you take the insides out. And once you've done that, then you have this piece that you got to take off. Like so. And you can see this thing hasn't been cleaned in forever. But now it'll come apart and out it comes. And I don't know if you can see this, but this one has a keeper ring on it, and this one does not. And I don't know if you can see from the other end, but when they're stacked up side by side, this one is shorter and deformed on the end. And that's basically, it's just wearing out. So try to put this thing together. See, I've got several of these rings. Now, I don't know if I'm supposed to put all of them in there or not. I can't remember. And this one has none, so there's that. But let's see how this fits. Well, I got it apart. Let's go ahead and use these brushes. Clean that off. What ended up happening with this tool was that eventually that ring on there broke. It wore down, it was getting sloppy, and eventually it broke, and couldn't use it to fasten downward any longer because the piston would just, or shaft, or whatever the heck it's called, would just fall, and create that gap. But I could still use it fastening upwards. And by upwards, I mean I could use it to use fasteners like this. It has an eye on it, tie a wire to it, and be ceiling wired. Suspend your ceiling from a concrete deck. Not my most favorite thing to do unless it was green concrete, because concrete gets more brittle the harder it gets, and shooting up into a deck, it was easy to shoot like 5-7 times and have it not bite. And then once it did bite, if you give it a yank downward, to check how good the connection is, you pull it right off the ceiling, and it's pretty frustrating. So usually I ended up, unless it was green if it was not green concrete, I would just drill it and use a drive anchor, or some kind of expansion anchor in there with an eye, and tie the wire on that way. Okay, so we got it cleaned out just a little bit. Let's see if it'll fit better now. I don't know if that's going to easily go in there or not. It looks like not. Okay. So we're in there now. Yeah, it's a much tighter fit. Now what's going to happen is when this thing is pointing downward, it's not going to come out. And alright, so put that back in there, that on there, this keeper spring on here. And I'm sure all this stuff has names, and I'm probably using all the incorrect names for all this stuff, but you know, just because this tool is 30-some years old doesn't mean it won't work. It just means it probably is going to work in such a way as for you to have to pay attention to its little quirks. And if you do that, you can get it to cooperate and perform. But I say that, and I'm having trouble myself getting it to push back together. I don't remember this ever being difficult. That's very interesting. Did I do something wrong here? I don't think I did. Here. Take it off and put it on the other direction. Wow. There it goes. Maybe I just had it on the wrong way. Okay, so that keeps it from coming all the way out. And then put it back inside the actual body of this thing. Clean that out a little bit. A lot of spent gunpowder in there. And I remember using, well, it wasn't this tool because I was working for my brother-in-law at the time, but I remember shooting about 1,500 pins one day. And my hand was so sore after that 1,500 pins that it hurt for months, which made me think that probably I broke some bones. And this thing here, it has this slot that rides up and over, which you can't really see what I'm doing here, but it rides up and over this little key and snaps down in, and then that locks that in place, and now I've got a tool. And when I put it down, that all does that, but the shaft doesn't slide on down. And this looks like I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4 more of these. So if this shaft lasted me 29 years, this should take me to about this time 100 years from now, so I'll be 162 years old. Long outlast me. Just very robust tool with a little bit of slop in it. It does the job. You put the pin in, these little plastic things, they basically just center that so it can do it. You push it down and then click, bang, and there you go.